Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today in this afternoon's webinar. We will be discussing the graduate follow-up reports and strategies for following students and reporting for accuracy. Today's session will be hosted by myself, Cheryl Sanvos, and Claudia Bellapunto. So today we're going to be talking, just like our previous sessions about reporting, we'll be sharing with you the FCSUA Community Access, going over the reporting deadlines for you. We're going to talk about some information, what information is going to be collected. We'll go over the cloning function again and the common errors that are usually associated with the cloning function. Claudia is going to do a walkthrough of a report with you, and then we'll remind you of our available resources and assistance that we have for you. So just a reminder, each program has 3 licenses to access the FCSUA community. If you need an extra license, we might be able to provide them for you as long as you have a large number of students and multiple campuses. I was just talking with a program who was talking about some of their struggles with only 3 licenses. So if you do have a request for licenses, please let us know and we will look into that for you. So just a reminder, our report timeline. Our annual program report is due July 1st. I know this says 2 months away, but I was looking at my calendar and oh my goodness, it's like 5 weeks away. I am reviewing them. We've already have some that have already been approved. So go ahead, submit your annual reports. Once your annual report is due, then you can start on your student annual reports. So student annual reports, along with the follow-up reports, are due August 1st. So the earlier you can get your annual report done and approved, you can start working on your other 2 reports. The student follow-up reports, again, start working on them early. So when you have the graduates, the end of the year, you're following up and you're sharing with us where the students are. The follow-up reports helps us report to the legislature the outcomes of our programs. So it's important that you let your graduates know that you will be reaching out to them and you expect them to maintain contact for at least 5 years. We're going to be looking at what the students completed, what courses they earned, what credentials they've earned. Now we're looking at where are they employed, what is their employment rate, what's their salary, what benefits do they have, and we're hoping to see a trajectory of increases over time over the 5 years. We do have a couple webinars that are posted on our YouTube channel, and those are the strategies for thorough and comprehensive student reports and student information reports. But I want to remind everyone, when you're completing your follow-up reports, and I know we said this in every webinar, it seems like, don't just clone reports. Make sure we had the clone feature to help you guys, so all the redundancy is not necessarily needed each time you're doing the report. But when you're cloning the reports, make sure that is accurate and we have the accurate information in there. So last year, we had 17 programs submitted their follow-up reports. 14 of those 17 submitted them late, and the days late were between 4 and 35 days. As a reminder, this report is due for all of your graduates. They're due August 1st. 30% of the reports were completed right the first time. And we think the reason why most of them were late, because everyone was busy cloning and doing all the cloning and doing all the years 2, 3, 4, and 5 reports. They forgot to do year 1 reports. So the new graduates, we forgot to do those. So make sure you're not just focused on the cloning, make sure you're covering all of your students, not including the recent graduates as well. So the next slide shows you why this is important for reporting data. There is a progression over time of who we reached and who we missed. We are averaging about 78% in years 2020 2021 and 2022, we actually reached 82 and 84% of our graduates, but we're in the 76 and 78 um, percentage of reaching our graduates. I would like to see that number 99 or 100%, just so we know where our students are. We can see how effective our programs are here. So we're reaching graduates in a variety of ways. The most popular way, obviously, right now is on the phone. Email is the second popular. And remember, when you're reaching out via email, make sure it's not the school email address, because usually once graduates leave, they no longer have access to their school email address. So make sure you have a good email address. Some people are reaching out in social media. Some are sending a survey home. We have some people who are starting to do alumni barbecues. So they're bringing the kids back, and I know they're adults, but they're always going to be kids in my eyes. You're bringing the students back or the young employees back for an alumni barbecue as a way to kind of just keep in touch and everything. So who is responding to the follow-up questions? Majority of the students are responding. So we have some parents responding, and then there's three others, and that was a caretaker, a guardian, and a sister. So, we can get the information any way we can. And you can see we have our graduates. We have a total of 375 graduates who have completed our programs. We're going to have more this year. So this is why it's so important to make sure you're reaching out to the students, making sure you're keeping connected and getting the information. So this year, we have 19 programs submitting follow-up reports. Last year, we had 17. So this year, big shout out to Broward College and Okaloosa Technical College. These are last year your first graduates, so you should be submitting your first follow-up reports this year. I want to take the time now and look at the chat. I want you guys, the season programs, what was your best way to reach out to your alumni? What are your what's your advice to Broward College and Okaloosa and any of the other programs who are coming up for next year? What would be the best follow-up strategies that you've seen? And I'm checking the chat. Phone. Do you call at different times, or do you have like this is the time we call them, or do you vary the time you call the alumni? So Vivian says that she maintained ongoing communication with the students and families. She continues maintaining with the birthdays and special events throughout the year. So you're keeping that family environment going and that sense of connection. That's nice.
Cheryl, if I could add something as well
Mhm,
that
of course.
we've done from the start, we tell them that we're going to be asking questions. They know, they expect it to come. So when they graduate, it's like you're going to be calling us. Well, we call you all the time anyway. We keep you informed of events anyway. We ask them to come back for different reasons, like you said, an alumni picnic. But at the beginning, we tell them you don't walk away from us. We stay connected. So we say that to the students and the families from the beginning, and that's I think made a difference for us.
That's nice. So they do call different times of day and evening. I think that would probably be helpful too, because everyone has different hours they're working. Anyone else? You guys are so quiet. I know it's later afternoon, but all right, Claudia, handing it over to you.
Sure. So keep posting those. I would say for Okaloosa and Broward, this is going to be their first year, but there are also new programs that they have not still they're not in the follow up phase yet. But I think it will be good for them to start thinking. So if you have any other advice, please share that in the chat as well as your questions about follow ups. Sometimes we know that we require a lot of data to be reported back to the center. So different type of reports, it could be confusing. So share your questions in the chat. We will go through them at the end. Drexler is also looking at them, and he will help us read through your questions. So we wanted to jump into what this reports look in the FCSUA community. So I created a slide similar to this for the program information and for the student information. I thought it was beneficial for you to understand that the community is full of tips and tricks for you to learn and to make your life easier when you have to complete a lot of reports. So I have a few slides about it, but I'm also gonna go through the live demo of it. So I just want to show you, we have added a filter similar to what we have in the student information, because for you, those veteran programs that have a lot of follow reports, you might want to focus on, especially if you're going to use the cloning function, on looking at just last year reports. You maybe don't want to look back at 1920, you just want to look back at 23-24 since you're ready to start working on 24-25. So if you use this filter and you enter the date in the reporting year in the format that is indicated, that list is going to be narrowed down. So you are going to be able to see the reports and the students and the graduates that you're looking for easily. The other thing is, similar to the student information, we prefer that you submit all the reports, all the follow reports at once, because that is the way that we revise these reports. So there are different statuses and we're going to go through them, but our advice and our preference is that you submit all the reports. You work on everything that you have to complete related to follow-ups. And then when you have all your records ready, you go ahead and select the ones that are ready for submission. And then you click and submit to FCSUA. And this is actually a way for you to know which ones you can clone or not, because the checkbox is going to be available or grayed out depending on the status. If the checkbox is grayed out, you're not going to be able to do anything with that report. That actually means that you're done following up on that student. So that's one trick that you can think about. Which ones do I have to clone? Which ones do I have to keep following up on? So the checkbox is an indication. But not only the checkbox, it's also the cloning icon. If the cloning icon is grayed out, it means that you are not able, or you don't have to follow up on the student anymore. You completed your 5 years follow reports. The community knows that there are 5 records related to the student, and there's no need to worry about it. So those different actions and how they portray to you in the list are helpful for you to know what needs to be completed. So think about that when you're looking at your list. So for those of you, which actually 17 of you, are going to be cloning your reports. So as Cheryl was mentioning earlier, there is a lot that has to be revised. The follow-up reports are actually not as extensive compared to the student information. The student information has 3 different sections, depending if the student is exiting or not. The follow-up report is actually shorter, but it's helpful if you decide that you're going to use the cloning functionality, you revise that information to reflect the current reporting year. Because most of the time what we see is that even if you were not able to reach the student, then you just simply answer no to that question and the rest of the information stays the same. So what we're looking at the rest of the questions is old data. And is not applicable to this year's report. So kind of a summary on that. After your cloning, the information is not updated. Everything is identical. The only thing that is updated in that form is the reporting year when you're cloning it. So keep that in mind. Every question has to be revised. And again, all the questions have to be responded. So if the questions are there, it's because we need the data. So please do your best to respond to all those questions. As we were talking about what kind of data, and we're going to look at that in a second, salaries, benefits, all the credentials that the students might earn. Maybe they decided to enroll in a different institution to pursue other fields of education. So we want to know that so we can report. Those are indicators that are included in the legislation, and we have to report on those. And this is really, if you think about it, what says a lot about the success of the programs and the success of the center. So it really prove if we can prove with this data that our students are employed, and that's really the goal. If you read through the legislation, you see that we're employment everywhere. So this is really the data that supports that statement. So, and the other piece is provide additional information. We cannot repeat this enough. There's a box at the end of the questionnaire that it's very large, open for you to add history, anything that you want to add to support the data that help us understand the data that you're reporting. And if Cheryl, Christian, or Jackie, they're looking at the data and things not making a lot of sense, maybe looking at that additional information will actually avoid sending that report back to you if we have additional questions, because you might have used that additional space to kind of support the report and the story of the student through the year, because that's really what we want to know about. So I'm going to go briefly through this because we're going to look at in the community, but questions that are critical is, for example, this. You see how we actually make a summary of how are the students reached. So we need all this information. Make sure you're completing. If there is an option to say other, most of the time or all the time, we're going to ask you to describe because we know that additional information in there. Please provide that information and make sure that you are completing every question. So this is one that we had some comments from you, and actually this is it's actually changing very soon because, as I mentioned, let's say that you are completing a follow-up report that you were not able to reach the student. We want you to clean up that form if you decided to clone it. Right now, this format, you cannot do that, but probably in the next couple of weeks, the format of this question is going to change for you to be able to clear up or select a different option if you have to. We want the data to be accurate. If you're reporting on 24-25 academic year, the data has to be a reflection of that year, not from the year that you cloned the report from. So it's key to remember. Very similar. If it's not applicable, just clear it up. This type of questions, you actually can unselect the options from the ones that you can pick multiple choices. So make sure that you're doing that you're reflecting the current data. And for that, you can actually click multiple options or just deselect everything that is not applicable anymore.
And I just want to remind you the common errors to avoid is, like Claudia mentioned, make sure you update the forms when you're cloning everything. I know last year we had a lot. We weren't able to contact the student, but then there was data in there from previous years, and that kind of really starts queuing up our data. So again, making sure it has the current reporting year information. And don't rush through this. I know sometimes I had asked someone, can you please follow up? Use this method to follow up. And then 30 minutes later, I would get the report back and they said, okay, we sent them an email. Like, but you didn't have the opportunity to have that person respond back to the email. So just, use a variety of different ways to contact the student and give the students time to respond back. And we can also tell when the program coordinator is not completing the reports, and this is for any report. You can kind of tell just by the responses and the data that's collected that is someone who doesn't really have a lot of knowledge of the program or the graduates as they're completing the reports. So make sure it's the program coordinator completing the reports.
One thing that I wanted to mention is these reports are not tied to anything else in the system in the FCSUA community. You can really start those reports anytime. So it's not like the student information, those students are enrolled in the program, that there is a dependency between the student information and the program information. So you have the program information approved because of that credential connection. This ones, you really don't. So you can start looking at how this forms look like, what kind of questions we're going to ask you, what kind of questions you need to ask the students, the parents, whoever is going to respond to your questions or to the survey that you're going to send, depending on the format that you decide. So there is no starting date it's open all the entire year. So you can start working on that and set up different deadlines to, as Cheryl was saying, not just give them a call and be done with it. Maybe the next step is just sending an email or reaching out through social media. So that's what's critical. Have different ways to reach out to them and make sure that your information is updated. Your contact information is updated so you are able to talk to the graduates.
And
So
Drew reminded us in the chat to start early on gathering the completer information too.
yes. Okay, so let's go through the community. So if you want to follow along, if this is just first time, you actually can log in and you can click new. For those that are new, like Broward College or Okaloosa, if they're here, they can click new and they're gonna see the list of students that they have to follow up on this year. If you are an established program and you have graduates, you could clone a 23-24 student follow-up report and update that information. So my advice is that you do the same, like let's all log in and take a look at the questions that are asked in there. So let me go ahead and switch gears here. Let's bring in. Okay. Hope you all can see the community.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So this is the list that I was talking about earlier. And you see that actually this is a screenshot of what it was a screenshot of this actual live screens that I have in here. So again, here are the different checkboxes that will be next to your students in the filter. Of course, if you want to only see 23, 24s, see how it actually narrows down to our student Christian Zimmerman, because that's what I enter in the filter. So use that if you're a program that has a lot of students and you only want to see the ones from previous year. And again, look at the actions. An interesting thing here, if you actually hover over the icons have tooltips. And it will tell you that it will be disabled when the student has 5 follow-up reports. So it's actually telling you what's happening. It tells you this is just for view. So what does that mean? That if you click on it and you open a report view, only with view, you will not be able to edit it. But if you use the pencil, then you have the tooltip in there to tell you, here you go, you can go ahead and edit this report. So for today's purposes, again, if you're a brand new program completing follow-up reports, Okaloosa or Broward, this list is going to be empty for you. So you're going to start with the clicking new. However, you cannot forget what Cheryl mentioned at the beginning. The most common error we get is when we receive the reports from you and we look at the number of reports that we receive, sometimes and most of the time, they don't match the number of follow reports that we are expecting. The reason for that is because you focus so much on cloning and you forget that for the students that graduated last year, there's nothing to clone. So those reports has to be created from scratch. You have to click new for those students. The good thing about that is when you do that and you click a new, and let's see if we might not have a students in here, but let's just give it a try since this is our test. When you select, actually it has, the students are going to populate. Where is this coming from? This is coming from the student information. These are the students you said that exited the program because they completed the program requirements. So everything is connected. So you don't even have to think about which students I need to follow up on. The community is going to tell you. And this list, as you make progress completing your follow-up reports, this list is going to be blank. So that's another tip to know. I haven't done it right. Did I complete them all? The list is another trick that you can use for that. So think about that. Most of the time it's because we're expecting 20 follow reports and you only submit 16. The other 4 are your students that graduated last year. So we need reports from them. Don't forget that you start completing follow-up reports the year after they complete the program, 4 or 5 years. Let's actually clone Drew's report. One thing that is going to happen is I cloned a 2021 report and it updated the reporting academic year automatically for you. As I said, that's the only thing that gets updated. Everything else is on you to take a look at and say, what's new this year? What's different? So that very first critical question is, were you able to reach that person? And how were you able to reach that person? Was a phone, was an email, was an in-person meeting? If it was older, please enter a description. We need to know what happened with that. Anything that's older, and I think that a lot of you at this point are very familiar with the forms and how consistent they are in the community. When you have the option to say older, we ask you to provide a description. So if we ask you, please enter a description in there. Most of the time, we'll say all the time, when our technical assistant coordinators see empty questions without a response, they're going to send the reports back to you. So avoid having a lot of back and forth. Try to complete them as much as possible. Then, who provided the information? Was it the student? Was it the parent? Was it an advocate? Or maybe someone else? And when was that information collected? We also need an update on the student living arrangement. Maybe the student now is living alone or is living in a group home. So we want to know that. If you think about this, we kind of ask this question also in the student information. So we can see the progress and building that story that Cheryl was mentioning. So we can see how the students are gaining independence. So this is how we know that we're kind of building the story of the student and showing the success of their student. And then we ask about the employment, what type of employment they are. And you can see how the form actually changes depending on the option that you select. Is a student self-employed? Is a student receiving benefits with the competitive integrated employment? How much is the student making? How many hours is working? How is the student compensated? So how much is making the student average through the year? So we want to know that information if the student is employed. The other thing that we ask is also what career cluster is that employment associated with. So we have the list of all the career clusters in there. So please connect that employment to the career cluster. What's the job title? Who is employing the student? Benefits. It's also asking you about benefits. And this is one of those questions that I was mentioning earlier. You can actually select multiple, but let's say that you clone this report and this doesn't apply anymore. You actually can unselect the options, or you can just say no, and it will clear up everything, as you can see. So make sure that this is updated to reflect the current reporting year. Similarly, we ask about as I was talking about earlier, the estimated amount that the student is making through the year. Maybe the student decided to enroll in another post-secondary setting, so we want to know about a little bit more about that. So again, it's kind of the same format. You can actually select multiple, select one, or if you need to update, if you clone the report, you can actually unselect them to make sure that is accurate. Maybe the student earned credentials. Maybe they got a new industry certification. Let us know about that. If the answer to that is yes, please let us know what's that. What's that new certification, that new credentials that they earn? And what kind of benefits, if they're earning benefits, what kind of benefits are they getting? So if you have older, again, see, if you select older, you also have a description. Please complete that. And then we have that box that I was mentioning at the very end. Please, anything that you think might support the data collection process for every student, you can add it in here. It's more important than what you think. We read through them, and it helps us build a story and identify students are being successful because of the information that you enter at the very end of this form. Dresser, do we have any questions on the chat? No?
Questions at this time.
Okay, thank you. One thing that I wanted to talk about is the options for you here. If you say the report as a draft, it means that you are working on it for us, unless you tell us that you want us to give you our input before you actually submit the report. In that case, please let us know. Let us know that you have completed, that you have been saved in a draft mode, but you want our feedback. Maybe it's your first year completing this report and you want a little bit of assistance from our team. So that's okay. Unless you tell us that you need that support, if we see reports as a draft, we don't touch them. We don't look at them because we assume you're working on that. So when you're ready, when you have entered all your data, when you have completed all your questions, then you're going to click ready for submission. That is what, and actually I'm going to do that. See how the status of that report that I cloned from Drew from 2021, and now it become a 21-22 report. It says ready for submission. That checkbox is actually different. It's open for you to check that. I'm just using one example, but you're going to have more than one graduate most likely. So you're going to have multiple reports in here. The key here is that if you have a report saved in draft, you're not going to be able to submit it. Every record that will be submitted has to be in ready for submission status. So make sure that you change that once you're ready entering your data. If you try to submit a report that is in draft, you are going to get one of those red error messages that says that there are records that are in draft and you're not able to submit them. So make sure that that all your reports for the year are ready for submission before you select them and click submit to FCSUA. Any questions about that? Okay. So let's see, what else could we be missing here? I think once they're submitted, actually, let's do that. It actually tells you a report has been submitted successfully. You will get an email. We will get an email that says that webinar, which is that our fake institution, has submitted the follow-up reports. That tells us that it's our time to get in the community and revise the reports and provide feedback and approve them. You can see that now it says submitted. It's locked. You cannot edit anymore. That's also an indication that the data is not going to be lost if we go in there, or if you want to make updates, you cannot. Usually what happens is that sometimes I realize that I need to add this information for this student. You always can reach out to us and we can send the report back to you. But when it's saved as submitted, it tells us that now it's time for FCSUA to look at those reports, to that group of reports. Okay, I think that's it from the community. So let me go ahead and bring back the slides.
Okay, and I just want to remind everybody with our communication, always maintain contact with us. If there's a change in your program, if you have concerns about your students or anything, just reach out to us. If you need to update the contacts in the FCSUA community, or if you're questioning, like, did I do this right? Like Claudia mentioned, you can leave something in draft and have us look at it, and we can provide you feedback that way as well. So we're not just going back and forth in the community. We're happy to review your drafts as well. Even if you just want to call to talk to us and just have some technical assistance needs you might have, just reach out to us and we're happy to assist.
Cheryl, one thing to add in there, and we always we always try to remind everyone, it's update your contacts, because that is critical related to the reminders that you will receive. The community will send you reminders when it's time to start working on this report. But if your contacts are not up to date, the right person is not going to get the email. So make sure that your contacts are updated. And if you have any questions about that, or if you're somebody that you have to delete, that deleting part, we have to do. So just send us an email. But please make sure that your contacts are updated and the roles that are connected to them are accurate. And if you have questions about the rule and what difference does it make in terms of communication, you can also reach out to us and we can work on assigning them together. But keep that in mind, the roles in the community, that institutional profile tab, it's very important for communication. So let's just remind you about the resources that we have available. We have the FPCTP report section now on the website. I cannot repeat enough how critical this section is, especially for new programs or some of you that want to refresh what needs to happen. Don't forget that even that you have the reminders from the FCSUA community, you have a calendar that is color coded and it's going to tell you what is due every month. And it's going to, when you open it, it's going to tell you this month of May, what has to be completed. So I will invite you all to go in there if you have not done so. Go into the FPCTP reports section so you look at the schedule. But it doesn't stop there. You have the reports that are related to the program. You have the reports that are related to the grants and the scholarships. And what does that mean? It's instructions, and there's recordings similar to this one that we will be sharing on how you navigate the community and what information is critical for you. So when it's time to complete those, my advice, go to the different pages that we have available to look at what kind of reports you have to complete and how you have to complete those reports. The other piece, it's the FCSUA Help Center, and I have mentioned that blue link next to your avatar when you get into the FCSUA community. That is the direct link to it. So there's also a way for you to get answers to your questions. So use that link, and it's basically a Q&A system. It has information about everything that you have asked us in the past. That's basically what it is. All the questions that you have asked our team, we now put them in writing. We develop step-by-step instructions on how to do different reports, different things, applications and grants, and we will keep updating them. So as you ask those questions, we will keep updating this. So make sure that you use this. And if there's something that you think has to be improved, also let us know, because this is it's a brand new product. So we're going to continue improving and working on it. And then the other part, it's Slack. Last time that we talked about student information reports, we have a couple of programs that were not part of it. This is your space. So, and it's a great place for you to ask questions if you're a newbie, if you're trying to learn how to do reports, how to collect data. You have channels designed to talk to your peers or your type alike. So if you're not in Slack yet, please let us know, because we can add you. This is a space, a safe space for the programs. The only FCSUA team members in here are the tech team, in case that is like technical support is needed, but nobody else is here. Maria is not here, Iris is not, Drew is not, the technical assistant coordinators are not there. So it's just your space to talk to each other. And you can actually private message somebody if you have a specific question about a specific program. So it's kind of a way for you to talk through anyone that is involved in an FPCTP and is in Slack, and ask them questions and share resources. So definitely, I invite you to use it and to open it every day, like another tool that you have on when you're going through your work on the programs.
And you'll hear me mention Slack a lot just because it's a way to reach out to your counterparts across the state. And I don't know what's in there, so I couldn't say, oh, if you look at this channel. So, but I will remind you to reach out to Slack too if you have questions, just for assistance.
And I think this, I heard that a lot of people actually watch our recordings. So I will invite you to, if you have not subscribed to our channel, we try to update this webinars. Drexler takes care of that. It has all this very well organized. There is a playlist specifically on tutorials about the FCSUA community where you can go and rewatch any type of video about grants, applications, scholarships, and reports. So definitely, if you subscribe to it, you get a notification once we have a new webinar published, even that you get the recording in an email and also on our website, but this is an easy way to get to all that information and all those resources.
Okay, and this is the last of our series on reporting, our annual reporting. And so please send us your feedback. We have the link posted. Thank you, Chinyao, in the chat, as well as this QR code. So hold up the your phones and take a picture and give us your feedback. This helps us provide more meaningful support to you over the year. I do want to remind you, our next webinar is June 3rd, and we will be talking about the PEPI. So it's going to be the team leader PEPI overview. So we're moving right into our PEPI season, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you guys in person in July. Um, I'm just looking at the chat really quick. FAU, thank you for sharing that you guys create a Google form and you send that to your graduates via email and text. So that's another way to get information from your graduates. So that's pretty cool. And we also have Drew had posted the reporting schedule in the chat, so you can click on that link if you don't know where to find it on the site real quick. Again, please give us your feedback. We really appreciate it. Your time's valuable, and we want to make sure we're providing you with meaningful topics that will support you. And we're actually early today, Claudia.
Yeah, I know. The one thing that I wanted to remind everyone is that about the FCSUA support email. I want to say thank you to everyone because you have actually switched to using this email now a lot more. So I encourage you to keep doing that because it gets to the entire team, the entire tech team. If you need anything related to tech support, um, the community, but not only the community. It could be about Slack, it could be about the strategic planning tool. So it's not just me responding to the email. So you have met Alex, Haki, and Shivan, so they are able to also assist you with any responses. And if the questions go beyond technical support, and we have to forward this to Cheryl, Christian, or Jackie, or to Drew or Maria, or if maybe you have marketing and communication questions, it will get to Drexler and IDIS. So it's kind of a centralized way to get all your support questions, any type of requests. So definitely use the FCSUA support at ucf.edu email.